Hi guys, so today is lesson 5.5, which is called Parallel and Perpendicular Lines. There's a handout on Teams that you should print and fill out as you watch this video. So, we're starting with this graph here, and we're going to be looking at each of these lines. We're going to look what their slope is and what their y-intercept is, and then how they're related to the other lines, and filling in the chart below. So, first we're going to look at line A. And we're going to, so look at the chart there, we're going to find rise, run, slope, y-intercept equation. So we're going to start with the rise. So if you look at A, and you're going to see that it goes from 4 to 2. So 4 minus 2 means it has risen 2. So in the rise here, you should write 4 minus 2 equals 2. Now the run from 2 up to 4, we went from here to here. So we went from 1.5 here, 1.5, back over to negative 1.5. So we did 1.5 minus negative 1.5, which is the same as 1.5 plus 1.5, which equals 3. So the run was 1.5 minus negative 1.5 equals 3. So remember that slope is rise over run. Write that up here. So if slope is rise over run, then the slope of line A is 2 over 3. Now, what's the y-intercept? Where does this line cross the y-axis? Well, that's right here at 3. So fill in 3 there. So now, what would the equation of this line be? If you'll recall, the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So that means the equation of this line would be y equals 2/3 x plus 3. Now, the next column says, what's the relationship to other lines, parallel or perpendicular? So if you go back to your graph, line A runs parallel to line B, and it runs perpendicular to line C. So you write that there, parallel to B, perpendicular to C. All right, let's look at line B. Let's get rid of these. All right, so looking at line B. Line B goes from 2, and it runs down to 0. So 2 minus 0 equals 2. So the slope, or sorry, the rise is 2 minus 0 equals 2. And the run, how far did we go there, was from 1.5 to negative 1.5 again. So 1.5 minus negative 1.5 equals 1.5 plus 1.5 equals 3. So the run is 1.5 minus negative 1.5 equals 3. So again, the slope is rise over run, which is 2 over 3. The y-intercept, where does this line cross the y-axis? That's right at 1 there. So the equation of this line is y equals m, which is 2/3 x, plus b, the y-intercept, which is 1. Now, line B is parallel to line A, and it's perpendicular to line C. Parallel to A, perpendicular to C. All right, and then let's look at C. So line C, we're going to do rise and run again. So we'll see how far does it rise. It rises, pick 2 good points. It's from 3.5 down to right here, 0.5 is a good one. It's on a clear spot. 3.5 down to 0.5. So 3.5 minus 0.5 equals 3. So 3.5 minus 0.5. The rise is 3. And then the run, how far did we go there? We went from -1 over to 1. So -1 minus 1 is -2. So the slope is rise over run is 3 over -2. The y-intercept, where do we cross the y-axis, is at 2. So our equation is y equals m, which is 3 over -2, x plus b, which is 2. And what is the relationship to the other lines? It's perpendicular to both of them. Perpendicular to A and B. All right, so now looking at the equations of these lines, their slopes, and how they're related to the other lines, what can we conclude? Well, line A and B have the same slope and they're parallel. Line C, the slope is different than A and B, but it's related somehow. And it's related in the way that A and B were 2/3, and C is 3 over -2. So it's the same fraction flipped over and made negative. And that's called the negative reciprocal. All right, so let's fill in those blanks below. So parallel lines' slopes are the same. Right, so if a line is parallel, it will have the same slope as the other line. It might have a different y-intercept. In fact, it will, because if it has the same y-intercept, they're on top of each other. So they have the same slope. Perpendicular lines' slopes are the negative reciprocals of each other. So basically flip the fraction and make it negative. So for example, if I tell you a line has a slope of 3 and say, what would the slope of the perpendicular line be? It would be the negative reciprocal. So remember that 3, a whole number, is the same as 3 over 1. So the reciprocal of that, I would flip it over, and now it would be 1 over 3, and then make it negative. So the slope of the perpendicular line would be -1/3. All right? Okay, flip the page over, or the second page, and we're going to do some examples of this. So number 1 here is if your original line is x minus 2y equals 4, which of the following lines are parallel or perpendicular or neither? So there's 3 lines listed there. So first, we need to put this line into y equals mx plus b form because we don't know the slope just by looking at it here. So I have x minus 2y equals 4. I need to get it in this form, so I need to get y by itself. So in order to do that, first I'm going to subtract x from both sides, because x is positive over here, right? So x minus x is 0, so I'm left with -2y equals 4 minus x. I still don't have y by itself. Some of you think that now I have y by itself, but I don't. It needs to be alone, nothing attached to it. Divide both sides by -2. Y equals 4 over -2 minus x over -2. So y equals 4 divided by -2 is -2. And then minus x over -2 is the same as plus x over 2, which there's really a 1 in front of here, right? So this is 1/2 x. Now, it's not quite in y equals mx plus b form yet because the mx has to come first. So that leaves us with y equals 1 over 2x minus 2. This is negative because it has a minus in front of it, okay? All right, so My equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 2. My slope now is m, which is 1/2. So, in order to tell if these other lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, we have to look at their slopes. If the slopes are the same, they're parallel. If the slopes are negative reciprocals, they're perpendicular. And if they're not related in a way other than these two, then it would be neither. All right, so let's look at them. So A is y equals negative 2x plus 8. So 1/2 compared to negative 2. Let's just see what the negative reciprocal of 1/2 is. So let's flip it. That would leave me with 2/1 and make it negative. Oh, look, that's negative 2. So this one is the negative reciprocal. So therefore, it's perpendicular. All right, B, y equals 2/4 x plus 2. How is 2/4 related to 1/2? It's the same fraction, just it hasn't been reduced. Therefore, those slopes are the same. Okay? They equal the same thing. 1 divided by 2 equals 0.5. 2 divided by 4 equals 0.5. Those are the same things. They're the same slope. So these are parallel. And then C, y equals 4/5 x plus 2. 4/5 is not the same as 1/2, and it's not the negative reciprocal because we know that's negative 2. So this one is neither. All right, number 2. 3 line segments, A, B, M, N, P, Q exist. Which segments are perpendicular? Their coordinates are as follows. So we're given the coordinates of the lines, the segments. We need to find the slopes of all 3 of those line segments, then compare their slopes to see which ones are negative reciprocals, because then we'll know they're perpendicular. All right, so we'll start with A and B. So A is negative 7, 4, and B is 2, 10. So remember, to find the slope of a line given 2 points, you need to use the equation m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So I'm going to label my points as x1, y1, x2, and y2, and then put those into this equation. So y2 is 10 minus y1, which is 4, divided by x2 minus x1, which is negative 7, equals 10 minus 4 is 6. 2 minus negative 7 is like 2 plus 7, which is 9. And 6/9 can be reduced to 2/3. All right, so the slope of AB is 2/3. Let's find the slope of MN. M is negative 5, 0, and N is 5, 8. Let's label these as x1, y1, x2, y2, and then plug them into the slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals y2 is 8 minus y1 is 0 over x2, which is 5, minus x1, which is negative 5. 8 minus 0 is 8. 5 minus negative 5 is 5 plus 5, which is 10, and that can be reduced to 4/5. All right, and then the last one is P and Q. P is 2, negative 2, and Q is negative 2, 3. Slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We'll label those x1, y1, x2, y2. y2 is 3 minus y1, which is negative 2, divided by x2, which is negative 2, minus x1, which is 2. 3 minus negative 2 is 3 plus 2, which is 5, and negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. Okay, so we have found the slopes of all three line segments. Now, which segments are perpendicular? So we have 2/3, 4/5, and 5 over negative 4. So you'll notice that 4/5 and 5 over negative 4 are related, and that they're flipped over and one is negative. So MN and PQ are perpendicular. This little sign here, it's an upside down T. It means they're perpendicular because their slopes are negative reciprocals. All right, number 3. Determine the equation of the line parallel to the line y equals negative 2 over 7x plus 3 that passes through 14, 9. All right, so the line they give us is y equals negative 2/7 x plus 3, and the point is 14, 9. So it's parallel to this first line here, and then it has the point 14, 9 on the line. So if it's parallel to this line, it means it has the same slope. The slope here is negative 2/7. So that means our new line is going to have a slope of negative 2/7. So far we know y equals negative 2/7 x plus b. We only know the slope of our line. We don't know b yet. So that means we need to find b. And how can we find b? Well, we just learned this in the last lesson. We're given a point. We're going to plug that point in for x and y and solve for b. So remember that when you're given a point, it's a coordinate x, y, right? So I'm going to take y and plug it in, take 9 and plug it in for y. So I'll have 9 equals negative 2/7 x. X is 14. That's multiplied. When x is right against a number, it's multiplied, plus b. I'm just going to move up here so that I have more room. All right, so I have 9 equals negative 2 over 7 times 14. So negative 2 times 14 is negative 28 over 7 plus b. 9 equals negative 28 divided by 7 is negative 4 plus b. I want to get b by itself, so I need to do opposite operations. I have this negative 4, so I'm going to do the opposite of negative 4 is add 4 to both sides. So now I have 9 plus 4 is 13 equals negative 4 plus 4 is 0 plus b. So 13 equals b. So now I know that my slope is negative 2/7 and my y-intercept is 13. And now I can make my equation. Y equals negative 2/7 x plus 13. And that's the equation of this line. And number 4. Determine the equation of the line that is perpendicular to y equals 3x plus 1 and has the same y-intercept. Okay, so it's perpendicular to this line and it has the same y-intercept. So the slope of the line they give us is 3. The perpendicular slope would be the negative reciprocal. The negative reciprocal of 3. 3 as a fraction is 3 over 1. So the negative reciprocal would be 1/3, but negative, so negative 1/3. So now my slope is negative 1/3. And the y-intercept in this line is b, which is 1. So b equals 1. So therefore, the equation of my new line is y equals negative 1/3 x plus 1. All right, so that completes the lesson. There's some homework questions listed there. They are homework for Monday. Make sure that you do those and let me know if you don't understand some of the questions, and then I can take them up and maybe post the solutions. So just let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this goes well for you.